Tim Hecker is good. He has this niche combination of ambient and drone and glitch and noise, which was more prominent in his earlier works before 2011 with the crushing, thick textures of records like Harmony and Ultraviolet and Radio Amore. And although his music is technically labeled as ambient, a lot of what he came out with after that point was much more vivid and tangible than your average record in the genre, making it more widely accessible and hard not to like. But with that being said, I do think sometimes he borders on overdoing it, and the switch-ups might come across as more genuine and emotionally powerful if he let us sit in the moment longer. Or they were more subtle, there was more of a gradual build to something, but still, he's a solid bet for a good to great record, and that definitely counts for something. Now, this album I can't really compare to much else in his discography. It works in a lot of elements of gagaku, or Japanese woodwind stringed and percussive instruments such as ruteki and shamisen, recorded last year in Tokyo with a small group of musicians, and it's mostly improvised. In addition to that, there are layers of howling synthesizers and drones and crushing distortion. Although this album is technically pretty minimal for Tim Hecker, it's unrelenting and constantly shifting. It's pretty loosely tied together. There isn't much in the way of melody, and it feels quite tortured. I can compare my emotional response to being in like Area 51 with no map or service or help, or just watching the world crashing and burning around you. In Death Valley literally feels like being in Death Valley. It starts off with this rattling percussion and then moves into what I believe is a shamisen, and then moves into these waves of chiming, piercing synthesizers enveloped by distortion, and then falls into this twisted second phase with these alien drones that feel pretty clearly oppressive and menacing. I think As a Rose Petal works as the gentle transitional moment. It feels like it has a sense of desperation to explode into something more, but it's being forced to tone itself down and let there be empty space. Keyed Out is this jittery, frenetic cut that feels like some higher force taking control. It starts off with this bellowing rumble, then moves into ghostly waves of wind instruments until this onslaught of metallic sounds slice through it. Eventually it feels like all of these elements are being hushed until they eventually trickle out into this wasteland of sound. The sodium codec haze is enveloped by these textures that sizzle and swell and weep, and despite the track not having a crazy progression, I still think there's plenty to uncover that's modestly hidden underneath it. I think Access to Konoyo's composition is pretty remarkable, especially love the beginning melody. The string drum string pattern is hypnotizing as hell. However, the main problem I have with this track is that the middle section has some moments that remind me of moments I've already heard, and this redundancy can kind of also be seen in tracks like In the Mother Earth phase, although I do love the layer of sorrowful strings that were added and complement the soundscape quite naturally. Overall though, I'm really enjoying this thing. It's not my favorite Tim Hecker album by any means, but I still definitely think it's a worthy addition to his discography, which is why I'm feeling like an 8 on it. So yeah, thanks so much for watching this review. If you want to subscribe to my channel, that would be great, and I'll see you soon.